Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Njist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Njist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast coming back to you today with another very special and amazing guest. I know I say that all the time, but it's true. Today, I have John Kippen with me. But what I like to do, John, is have you introduce yourself to the audience, like who you are, what it is you do, and then you and I are going to rock and roll.
Hey, Max, thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to your listeners and to you. My name is John Kippen. I am a motivational speaker. I'm a resilience and empowerment coach and a professional magician. And I love bringing joy to people through my story of overcoming adversity and let people know that there is love in the world and they're not alone. We all have challenges, and I hid from life for a long time because of a situation that happened to me that we'll get into. And I empower my clients, my coaching clients, to stop hiding from life.
I love it. And well, you said it, John. We need more people like you, right? Because there are people out there who often feel that they're alone, right? So thank you for being here so you can share your story to help them hopefully reach out to you and go, John, I need your help because I've been hiding for too long.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
I love it. So let's go back then and talk about those challenges and struggles that have helped shape who you are today, right? You go back as far as you want, as deep as you want, but this is your time. So I'd love to hear your story.
Okay, Max. So I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version of it because I'll turn 60 and I don't think we have time for 60 years of reminiscence. So I was born to two successful attorneys, and they really were. I was an only child, and I had a great, warm, loving relationship with both my mom and dad. And they sent me to the best private school in Los Angeles, and I just had the opportunities that a lot of kids don't get. And so I made the best of this and got into theater, and I started performing, and then got to do some of the tech side, and I really enjoyed that. So anyway, I learned how to be a creative problem solver. And I started a computer consulting company in 1980, and I found a niche, and I was happy. I was making money. I was able to buy my house. I was in a loving relationship, and everything was going great. And then one morning, I woke up with loud ringing in my left ear, and it was loud and it was lasting. So I actually called my dad, who had had hearing trouble, asking for his ENT. And so I made an appointment with the ENT, and I drove down that day. And by the time I got there 4 or 5 hours later, the ringing subsided. But he did a hearing test and everything came out great. So I'm like, cool. All right, just one of those things. But unfortunately, then I started noticing having trouble hearing men's voices on the phone on my left ear. And so I went back, we did more hearing tests. I didn't find anything. I was like, whatever. It's just part of aging. I'm just going to use my right ear. But then that turned into dizziness. I got to a point where every standing or walking moment I had to hold on because I was getting dizzy. And it wasn't getting any better. So I found an ENT part of my medical insurance so that I could get an MRI and the insurance would cover it. And I went down and got an MRI, and I remember going to the front desk after the MRI was over, and it said, how much are those films? And the lady said, oh, no, these go to the radiologist, and the radiologist will read them over the next couple of days and then send a report to your doctor. And I said, you don't understand. I need to buy that set of films you have in your hand. And she kind of called someone and said, $300. I handed her my credit card and I walked out with those films. And I drove right back to the ENT without an appointment. And I walked in and he saw me through the reception window and he saw that concerned look on my face. And he said, all right, come on, come in. And he put one of the films up on his leg board, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden he looked at it for a second. He took a big gulp. He pulled it down and said, John, I, uh, I think I see something. And I'm going to make an appointment with you with a specialist. So 10 minutes later, I had an appointment downtown at an ear clinic, very famous ear clinic downtown. And he said, let me know what happened. So I got the films, got up early next morning, drove down, and I walked into the examining room and sat on the bench. And my senses were at a high height. And all of a
Right.
sudden, the doctor came in, looked at the film, said, called a neurologist, neurosurgeon. He came in. They looked at the films. The neurosurgeon left. And he said, John, you have a 4.5 center acoustic aroma brain tumor, and it's displacing your brainstem and killing you.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to push another patient, and we're going to operate on you a week from today. And left the room.
I'm sure you're like, thanks, doc, for that.
And I'm like, what just happened? I was hoping we all go in, we're hoping for the best.
Right.
I didn't bring anybody with me. I didn't record the conversation. So I'm like, holy cow, what do I do? So I opened the examining room door and I heard him down the hall and I went and followed the voice. And I knocked on the door and he opened the door and he was sitting on a little stool dictating a thank you note to the doctor who referred me. And I turned to my soon to be surgeon and I said, excuse me, we weren't done. And I brought him back into the examining room. And then I started asking all these questions like, what kind of surgery? What are the side effects? And, so he says, okay, you're going to go deaf in your left ear. We're going to be really close to both your balance nerve and facial nerve. So there's a small chance that you'll have some facial weakness. We're going to do our best to avoid that. And the surgery is going to be 12 to 14 hours long. And you'll be in ICU for a day and then in the hospital for a week. And once you get strong enough, we'll let you go home and recover. So I had set up a lunch with my parents, and I went and visited them for lunch, and they wanted to know what happened. And again, I'm in shock. So my mom is firing questions left, right, center at me, and I'm like, I don't remember. I I think he said 14-hour surgery. I think he said, so
Right.
word to wise, if you go in for any kind of appointment, take someone with you who can take notes.
Right.
Because medical professionals don't like to be recorded for liability reasons.
Right.
So make sure you don't go alone. Bring a loved one, bring a friend because you're going to have questions. You're going to
Right.
wake up the next day saying, he said, what? So fast forward, they roll me into surgery. They put me under. I wake up in surgical recovery. And it took me what seemed like 20 minutes to come out of it. It was like I was in a deep pool trying to swim to the surface. But when I got to conscious, I noticed my dad was sitting on the edge of the bed holding my hand. But my mom, I didn't see her, but I need glasses. So I asked my dad for my glasses and I put my glasses on and realized I was having trouble putting them on because my head was bandaged.
Right.
And I looked across the room and there my mom was standing. But the look on her face was one of horror. And I didn't understand, because I have full feeling in my face. I didn't realize at the moment that they had paralyzed the left-hand side of my face. And so my mom handed me her compact mirror. And I looked into it and was like, holy Batman. What did they do?
Right. And
So
that was one of the things that told you that could happen.
yeah, but they said it was a small possibility. So anyway, the doctor comes in to check on me later that day. And of course, the first question is, dude, what did you do to my face? And when is it going to come back? And he said, John, relax. This was a known possible complication, but we we had sensors going on, and we only lost connectivity to your face right when we closed. So we're hoping that it was just a swelling. And once the swelling goes down, you'll get your feeling back. You'll get your movement back. So I'm like, phew, okay.
Right. You're like,
So I went up back home and I started recovering, and then I developed a complication, which was a spinal fluid leak. So I have to go back and forth, to the hospital, and then they end up operating again to fix the incision. And then I get home again, and now I'm like, okay, now I can heal. But every time I went to wash my face, every time I looked in the mirror, I saw someone's reflection that wasn't me. And that was the start of my downward spiral. And it took me many years of reflection. But if my mom's first reaction to my new face was, holy beep,
right.
what am I supposed to think about my own new look?
Right.
And I didn't realize that that's when I started my downturn. So fortunately, I was able to operate my business from home and not go out and meet new clients anymore, and not socialize, and it ended my relationship, and because I beat myself up. I lost my love of myself. And that lasted 12 years. And finally, I got so fed up, I needed to get out. I needed to have some kind of recreation. So I started playing semi-professional poker. Because at a poker table, no one cares what you look like.
No.
They just want your money.
Right. They just want, yeah, exactly. They just want your money.
But I started to realize I was developing these friendships with degenerate gamblers. And those were not the people that I wanted long-lasting friendships with. So one day I'm watching TV, and there was a David Copperfield magic special. And I did my magic since I was a kid. And I was like, maybe I could do magic and get over my issues with self-confidence.
Right.
And so I joined a private club in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle. And slowly but surely I had to go through an audition, and I did, and slowly but surely I started performing for people. And when I would sit behind the table, people would come up, and they were a little distracted by my face, not knowing why. Not that they were making judgments, they were curious. Oh, did he have Bell's palsy? Did he have a stroke? And that was
Right.
detracting from their enjoyment of my magic. So I came up with the idea that I would introduce myself. Hi, guys, my name is John. I'm doing magic since I was a kid. But in 2002, I had a brain tumor. When they cut it out, they traumatized my facial nerve. But when I woke up, I realized I had acquired some new skills. And then I wait. And I wait till the audience is sitting on the edge of their seat, waiting to find out what kind of skills I acquired by having brain surgery. And I look to my right and my left, and I lean in and I whisper in a loud voice, guys, I am able to manipulate people's thoughts. And then I start doing mental magic, mentalism. And all of a sudden, now my audiences understand why my face is paralyzed. And they no longer are distracted by it. And immediately, I'm able to make this connection where I'm able to put my audience on the pedestal and make the magic about them instead of myself.
Right.
And that strength of me building that resilience, I still have a paralyzed face today, but I've learned how to accept myself. I learned how to make my face not define me.
Yes. I know that because I can relate, right? I had shoulder surgery. First, they thought it was a torn rotator cuff, and they said, "Oh no, it was just bone spurs," right? So, but when you go through the pre-op and you sign all, there's always, like you said, there was that one thing, that one in a million thing that could happen, right? Well, they nicked a nerve, and guess what, John? I have no right shoulder, no muscle whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
And like you during the summer, it's fine, right? Because they'll see it, because they'll see my good shoulder, and then they'll see like nothing but, like a bone under some skin, right? And like you, I just had to make fun of it and just go, you know what? It's taught me how, like you, to build new skills to grab people's attention so that they don't because I'm sure like you don't want them going, oh, poor John, right? He's got paralysis on the left side. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
right. Like, you're still John. You're still the brilliant John that you were always were, right? But according to your surgeon, they nicked a nerve or whatever that was, and that they tell you about. And like you and me, but I know at that feeling at first, you're like going, why me? Right? Why me?
Absolutely.
Right. And so talk about those moments that you had with yourself, because you're right. That's where you build resilience, right? When you get to have those deep reflections, and you get to ask yourself those questions, right? Like, I'm sure where it turned around, you're like, why not me now?
Yeah, there was hope for the first 18 months. There was hope. Every time I go back to the doctor, I'd ask him about my face. Says he, it hasn't been long enough. Just be patient. And so I held on to that hope.
Right.
And then finally, at my 18th month appointment, he's like, "Sorry, John, it's not coming back." Oh, and by the way, because you waited 18 months, your nerves and your attachment points in your muscle have atrophied, so we can't do any kind of surgery to restore it. I'm like, what?
I can relate to you on every level on that one, man. Like, 100%, right? By the time they figured it out, they said, well, and they did those EMG tests, right? Where they stick
Yeah,
the needles in.
right.
They said, well,
Absolutely.
your nerve is not going anywhere anymore because it's too late. And your nerves only grow back so much. And then after that, it's done. And I'm like you, I'm probably thinking, now you tell me, doc.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
If it had been on the 6 month appointment, I had
Yeah.
options. They could have, there's a very expensive, lengthy surgery where they take a muscle out of your leg and a piece of nerve and they sew it in there and they let the nerve grow and then they attach it so that you can resume some kind of movement.
Right.
But they waited too long and I didn't know the difference. I was just in the doctor,
Well,
which first mistake. But anyway, I've made many since then. So I realized though that when I started sharing my journey, my adversity, and how I turned it into a superpower with that story of now being able to read minds and do mentalism and visualize people's thoughts. People were attracted to that. They saw a strength come from me. And they didn't exactly know how to describe it, but they knew whatever I had, they wanted some of it. They wanted to build their own resilience. And one of my favorite stories, I was sitting waiting for an audience to come into a showroom. And this woman was walking down the hallway and she was dressed all in baggy black clothes, wearing a hat that reminded me of a witch's hat. And she passed and I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she stopped. And she gave me the look that said, "Just leave me the heck alone." And then went down to catch up with the rest of her friends. And I could tell something was bothering her. She didn't want to be there that night. And I found out later that her friends had to actually drag her out of the house to get her come to one of the greatest places in the world. So I caught up with the group and said, "Hey, guys, having a good time?" They're like, "Oh, this is amazing." I said, "Yeah." but have you seen any really good close-up magic? And they shrugged their shoulders. I said, come on. And we went over to a little green felt table in the corner with 6 chairs. And the woman who was wearing the baggy black clothes her name was Darren. And I put her to my right. My expectation was I wanted to make her smile. That was it. Because I could tell she had something on her mind. So I started performing in her and I made the magic about her. Every magical moment happened because she did something. And all of a sudden she started to smile. And she ditched the hat. And she's sitting up straight now and she's making eye contact. And I could see the passion come back to her eyes, the sparkle. And I know that I have connected with her. So I finished the show and I'm happy and she's laughing and kidding around. And I could tell whatever baggage she brought with her that night was gone, at least for that half hour. And then they wanted more. So I shared the story about how I had hid from cameras and mirrors for over 12 years. And I went to my first magic convention in 2017. I was amongst the greatest minds in magic. And I did never pose for photographs because I felt deep down that me being in the photograph was ruining the photograph for the other people in it. But I mustered the courage to ask these great mentors of magic to take selfies with me. And I did, and I got home and I uploaded them to the computer, and it dawned on me if these great minds in magic had no trouble taking a picture with me, what was my hangup?
Yeah.
And that's when I really said, screw whatever people think. So anyway, I shared that story with Darren and her friends. Darren stood and she motioned for me to stand. She gave me one of these hugs that you don't soon forget. It's like you
Right.
haven't seen your best friend or your sister in 20 years. And she was holding on for dear life. And I'm taking it all in and just being in the moment. And then she stood back and she looked up at me. She was crying and she said, John, I need to share something with you. 4 years ago, I had a double mastectomy because I have the BRCA1 gene. And my mom, my aunt, and my sister all had their breasts proactively removed. And I was the last in the family to do that. And when I saw your magic and realized that my friends had to drag me to this place, and all of a sudden now I'm having the best time I can remember having time in years. And then I heard your story. And it dawned on me that I've been hiding too by the baggy clothes and the funny hats and my snarky responses and not making eye contact. And I think you just shaved 8 years off my journey. And she made a promise to herself in that moment with her friends and I as witnesses that that would be the last night she would hide.
Love it.
So she had been crying and went to the bathroom, and one of her friends is sitting there and her mouth is wide open. She said, John, you don't understand. We've known Darren since college. And we've been friends and trying to support her for the last 4 years since her surgery. And you did it in 30 minutes what we've been trying to do for 4 years. And I sat back in my chair, totally overwhelmed. And it dawned on me if I had the power through being my authentic self and sharing my journey and understanding how to build resilience, that I could touch someone on such a human level that I found my new calling. And it was to share my journey and my what I've learned
Right.
going through those 12 years of hiding from life, to empower other people to stop hiding, to stop taking their physical appearance and or whatever their defect happens to be
Right.
and turn it into their superpower. Being different is your superpower, which is my slogan.
And that's the magic right there.
That's the true magic.
That's the true magic, right? And it's almost like what we talked about before the podcast, right? Like in my recovery, that's, I've been where I've been in an audience listening to a speaker, right? And they share my story, and it's like, right? Because I don't want to deal with anybody. I just want me to be left alone, right? Or I've been the speaker and had someone come up to me and said, you just saved my life, or thank you for sharing. Now I don't feel alone. Now I understand why we do what we do, so we can stay, in my case, stay sober, right? And
Right.
because there's nothing like, as they say in the program, right? One addict, one alcoholic helping another. And you found that magic, right? Like you sharing your story on this. See, and that's what brings me joy when I have guests like yourself that are so authentic and share their stories and show that the world that, look, whatever you think is your weakness, let's say in your head, could be your biggest strength. You just have to get it out there.
It's mindset, my friend. It's mindset.
Right. And you just gave my audience the opportunity to change their mindset, if there's anybody out there. So for me, that's, thank you.
Learning how to get out of your own way. Holy cow.
Right. But isn't that the best feeling when you realized I just got out of my own way? I feel so good for doing that.
And helping others brings you so much joy yourself.
You can't even put a price on it.
I have a resilience and empowerment coaching program where I help people deal with adversity and overcome adversity. And I also help people dealing with the parents or loved ones going through dementia, Alzheimer's, and because I dealt with that with my dad, and I have strategies that I've developed that allowed us to keep him at home as long as possible. Learning how to enter his reality as opposed to trying to force him back into yours.
I love that. We're going to have to talk because I helped take care of my mother-in-law who's 93 with Alzheimer's.
I could talk hours on just that alone.
Well, we may have to bring you back for part 2, and we can talk about
exactly.
that.
So I forgot at the beginning of what I told you I was going to give your listeners a free gift.
Right. Well,
It's
that's
my
why
best-selling book called "Playing the Hand You Were Dealt."
There you go. And listen up, everybody. If you want a free copy, a PDF copy, you have to listen to us all the way to the end. Right, John?
That's right. That's right. I'll give you the link until the end of the podcast.
Love it.
So I've been very fortunate in my life. Went through adversity, but one of my closest friends, because of my IT relationship with her, was Jamie Lee Curtis. And she kind of adopted me as her third child because she knew me prior to the surgery and after the surgery. And she was one of the few clients after my face was paralyzed that I would actually go and make house calls and actually help her. And I had a friend of mine who was an amateur filmmaker say, "John, I love your story," because I had just got accepted to do a TED Talk at SDSU in San Diego. And that TED Talk talked about resilience and treating people with respect and compassion that you would ask for yourself. And you can look my name on talk. Now it's a TED Talk, not a TEDx, and it has over 1 million views. So I shared.
I feel honored you are here today.
Thank you so much. So this filmmaker reached out to me and said, "John, you have an amazing story. I want to do a documentary on you." And I'm like, cool. Until I realized I'd be paying for the production of that documentary. But I was like, hey, if I can get my message out to the world through a documentary, it's worth every penny.
Absolutely.
So I remember sitting with Jamie in front of her computer, and she's sitting on my bad side, on my deaf side, because I went deaf in my left ear. So anyway, we're talking, and I'm thinking, okay, how do I ask? And I told her the story about this filmmaker making a documentary. And I'm just sitting there working on the computer, and all of a sudden she goes, "And?" And I turned to Jamie and I said, "Huh?" He says, And I'm like, and when are you going to ask me?
I love it.
Jamie, will you be in my documentary? She goes, yes. And we scheduled the interview with Jamie. She spent the whole day making my documentary a success, speaking candidly about our relationship and what I do for other people. And we just bonded, you know.
I love it.
I decided, through speaking and coaching, I still have a limited audience. So I thought, what better way of putting my journey into a book? But I'm dyslexic, so I don't read for pleasure. Try writing a book when you're dyslexic. It's no picnic.
I can
Finally,
I can only imagine,
I
John.
just sucked it up, and in 3 weeks, I wrote the first draft, and I had an editor help me edit it. And at that point, I've learned in my life, at least for me, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
I love that.
And that has bitten me in the butt a couple times, I have to admit.
Same here.
But it also gives you opportunities that you don't normally get. Because if you ask someone, hey, Max, can I be on your podcast? And you say, sorry, John, you're not the right fit or whatever, then the opportunity's closed, you know?
Right.
And there was a bad example, but if you just go ahead and do it, most people see you and see you succeeding, and it's like, you didn't have, all right, just let them do it. So that brings me to another story. When one of my favorite celebrities of all time, Alex Trebek, who of course hosted Jeopardy,
Right.
came out on
that name very well. Yes.
came out on national television and said, "Hey fans, I have pancreatic cancer, and I'm in the fight of my life." And to see him being raw and sharing that with the world, I was immediately touched. And I have had experiences with dealing with people fighting cancer. And through my magic and just being present, just being their friend, being an ear, being a bouncing board for thoughts, I have helped people cope with terminal diseases or cancer or whatever.
Right.
And they gain strength from just having those honest conversations. I reached out and found Alex's daughter, Nikki. And I sent her an email and said, Nikki, I need to perform for your dad. And she got on a phone call and says, what's this about? And I said, well, I'm a professional magician and I have a story and I want to support your dad through his journey. I invited her and her family to come to the Magic Castle, and they're like, oh no, he doesn't want to be in public, but we are having a birthday party to celebrate his 75th birthday, and we don't have any entertainment. Will you be our entertainment? I said, oh, absolutely. And I designed a custom show directly out around Alex in the Jeopardy theme.
That's awesome.
And of course, I had him at the table with me. And I got to meet Alex and understand the way his mind works. And he was very inquisitive. He needed to understand how things worked.
Right.
And so he's kind of looking at all angles and trying to catch my sleight of hand. And I was like, good luck, dude. No, you're not just sit back and enjoy it. And
Right.
he's, doing it in a kind of a kidding way. So I ended with an amazing finale. And by the way, if you go to my website, johnkippen.com, there are videos of me performing that party for Alex Trebek. But after the performance, he and I went into another room. And I said, Alex, I just wanted to share with you why I'm here. When you came out with your diagnosis, you touched my heart. and I wanted to return the favor. And I told him, I don't have the power to cure cancer. I don't have the power to cure disease, but I can help people become resilient. And you are one of those celebrities in the world that are above reproach. Unlike the Mac Lowers of the world, you were part of all of our lives, whether or not we liked it or not. Every night at 7:30, 7 o'clock, you're on the TV in the kitchen. We hear your voice. You're so smart. You're so courageous, and you're such an inspiration. I wanted to be a person to come and tell you face to face what you mean to me, my family, and the rest of the world. And he broke down. I said, Alex, what's wrong? And he said, no one ever takes the time to thank me for my life's work. You're the first person in countless years that has ever done something completely for me without asking anything in return. And so touched. One of my best moments of my life to be able to support someone going through such a tough fight.
Yes.
And treated him like an equal. So, through the pandemic, I invented a game called Rolodex Roulette. Now, for all your listeners who don't know what a Rolodex is, it's this thing from the 70s. It's got a spindle and two handles, and it's got cards that you staple a business card to. And okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
I love it. Yeah, there's some people going, what is he talking about?
Right. So today, our Rolodex is our contact list in our phone. So the way you play the game is you blindly scroll up and down in your contacts and you stop on the name. And that's who you call that day, just to check in. And you just do it. You call them. You might have talked to them 2 days ago. You might not have talked to them for 20 years. But you say, hey, Max, John, I'm just calling you. I learned this game. It's called Roulette. And you're it, baby. I'm calling you. Just how are you? What's going on? Share something good with me. And you would be amazed how those conversations turn from what? Why are you calling? To oh my God, I so needed this conversation.
Yeah.
Because you called without any kind of pretense. You just called to see how I was doing. Well, let me tell you, things are great. Things are not so great. I'm going through a tough time. Here are my successes, whatever the conversation is.
Right.
Just showing that you're not alone. And then I discovered, we all have those people in our lives that we had a falling out with, and we don't really remember why. We just know we haven't spoken in many, many years.
Right.
But they still show up in our database, in our contacts. But of course, we don't want to be the person to reach out and make that first contact to kind of try to rebuild that friendship. So playing roulette gives you that plausible deniability. Hey, Max, John Kippen, I know before you say anything, I know we had a falling out. Hey, my friend taught me this game. It's called Rolodex Roulette. I landed on your name, and here we are.
Right.
How are you? I forgive you. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. No big deal. Doesn't matter who was right or wrong, but you're still in my Rolodex for a reason. And just what's going on? You'll be amazed how many relationships you can mend by just calling them out of support, love. Forget the frickin' past.
Right.
Look to the future. Look how you can brighten someone's day, week, or year just by reaching out and caring about them over caring about you.
Absolutely.
That's what this world needs nowadays with the political divide and all of the racism and all of the crap we're going through in today's world. You
100%.
know, we all we can do is vote for our candidate and then let them do their job. And no matter if you agree with the politics, no matter you agree with someone's religion, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
What matters is making that connection on a human level and changing a person one interaction at a time
That's right. I agree.
and letting people know that they're not alone.
Right. Well, there's something to, where God says, love thy neighbor, right? But he doesn't say love thy neighbor, but don't if they're Republican or Democrat or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
He doesn't say that, right? Or the universe, whatever you want to call it. Man, this has been an amazing time, John. But let's talk about what's in your book, what people can expect to read in your book. Because you have already brought so much value that I'm like sitting here with goosebumps listening to your story, right? And we could probably go for hours and hours, but I want to hear about your book, and I'm sure the audience does too, right?
The book has 220 pages. It's a large font, but you if you want a printed copy, you can buy one. But it's available. But I'm going to give you the free version via PDF, so you can read it on your computer or whatever. It's a story of my life from being born through my realizations of empowerment, self-empowerment, how I empower others by coaching and speaking. Um, the book is full of really fun stories of amazing illusions that I did as a magician. I love the theme of signed playing card to impossible location.
I love it.
I was doing magic for a group at the Magic Castle, and a woman named Brittany had signed the Nine of Clubs, and at the end of the show, they left, and I overheard them say, we're hungry, we're going to leave the castle. What about stopping by the In-N-Out Burger on Sunset, which was a mile away? And they all said, okay. So I got this wacky idea, and I had her sign Nine of Clubs. So I snuck out the back of the castle, and I got in my car, and I waited for him. And sure enough, they came out all buzzed, having a great time. They get in their car and they start heading out while I follow them. And they don't see me because they're having a great time and it's dark.
Right.
But sure enough, they go right towards the In-N-Out Burger on Sunset. And I get in the drive-thru right behind them. When I get up the window to place my order, I hand the lady a $10 bill for her trouble and said, do me a favor. Take this sign down to clubs and put it in their bag at the car in front of us. So she runs over there. She puts the Nine of Clubs in their bag. The bag goes through the window into the car. The car takes off. I go home. The next morning, I wake up to a post on my Facebook. What the? How did you get our Nine of Clubs in an out bag? So, just bringing joy to people when they least expect it is so empowering. Sharing your passions with people gets them engaged. I've learned a little trick when I go out on stage and I speak about resilience. I speak about treating people with respect and compassion. And I incorporate magic routines as metaphors to my messages, right?
Right.
What I do, and this is, if for all you speakers out there, this is a little trick. Right before the MC goes out to introduce you, I do a quick magic trick for him. And the one I do is I turn Monopoly money into real money as a story saying, hey, when I was a kid, my parents got together and we played Monopoly every weekend. And as a kid, I was like, holy cow, there's all this money. I want to be able to spend it. But I realized that I can't really spend Monopoly money.
Right.
But then I turn the Monopoly money into real money in front of the MC's face, and he sees the money, and I hand it out to be inspected. And then all of a sudden, the money turns back to Monopoly money. I say, the thing that I haven't quite figured out is how to keep it staying as real money,
Right.
because that's called counterfeiting. And you, as a 7-year-old doing this, the last thing you want to do is go to the federal pen for counterfeiting.
Right.
So that's why I'm not a multi-billionaire, because I can't really do it for real. So now the MC is like jazzed. He just saw a miracle happen in front of his eyes. And he goes out now and introduce you with passion. And all of a sudden, his excitement for you to come and follow him on stage, the audience gets it. And they're like, you need to listen to this guy because he has stories. He has a message you need to hear. And I walked out on that stage when I did my TED Talk. It was the first time I did that. And you could hear a pin drop, and I had every single person's undivided attention. Warming up the audience when you need to do a speech is half the battle, three-quarters of the battle. You
Right.
get them invested in what you have to say, all of a sudden your nerves go away. And you're just like you're having a talk like to your friend Max. And they see your authentic self. And you're able to be yourself. And they resonate with that. And they get in your corner. They want you to succeed. And you feel that love coming from them to you. Boy, nothing better.
Right. Nothing like it, right, John?
Nothing like it. So, I realized that that's why I wrote this book. And I mustered the courage again to ask Jamie. She wrote the foreword of the book.
I love it.
And in my background, I have a poster of me hugging Jamie, you mentioned earlier, because my documentary won 3 Best Documentary Awards. And she showed up to the LA Film Festival to give me the award.
Oh, that must have just made,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
it was Doc LA, and the host was like, "Holy cow, yeah, we'd love to have Jamie." Of course he would. But she came out, gave a nice speech, introduced me, brought me up to the podium, and awarded me the documentary, and then we embraced. And that's a picture of her and I just hugging and sharing that moment.
That's awesome. And sometimes that's what this is all about, just moments like that, right? Because
Yeah.
she's giving you that hug and she's got that smile, like, because you brought it, right? Like you're helping people bounce back from their adversities with your talk, right? With your book and just being John.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. And that's why I always tell my guests, I'm so grateful that you took me up on this and that you're here today. Cause right, I'm listening to you just going, wow, a couple times I got goosebumps because I'm listening to your story. But overall, you're like warming my heart because, there's a lot that all of us go through, right? And sometimes we just need to be heard. And sometimes we need that person like yourself who comes out and shares their story. And we go, okay, I feel heard now. I'm not alone. I got John on my side because he's been through it. He knows what it's like. And I can't even imagine how many smiles you have put on people's faces,
Oh,
right? Through your magic shows, through your speaking,
yeah.
right? And through your book.
I've changed lives, Max.
I love it. You changed mine today. You made my day.
And that's why I started this resilience and empowerment coaching practice. There are a million life coaches out there.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
you think about the term life coach, and it's like, well, what does that mean? There are nutrition coaches, there are fitness coaches, um, but my niche is helping people build resilience. So I became a resilience and empowerment coach. And you Google resilience and empowerment coach, you don't find many of them out there.
Right.
Very few coaches position themselves to help people build resilience, to get out of your own way.
Right.
And I get so much pleasure. Of course, I make money doing it, but that's not why I do it. I do it because I can literally allow people to dream again. I talk about dreaming. All of us grow up and we've got a brain full of dreams. And, I remember my parents would have friends over for dinner, adult friends. And the first question, John, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. No, I want to be an astronaut. No, I want to be a rock star.
Right.
And then I go into my bedroom and start playing air guitar and imagine me being on stage, being a rock star, And at
Exactly.
some point in your life, you stop dreaming. You get comfortable. You got a job, you got a career, you got a family, that becomes just okay. That just becomes the norm, you know. So many of my friends, when I see them, I say, "How you doing?" And a lot of them say, "Hey, John, I'm living the dream." And my pat answer, "Yeah, but is it your dream you're living or somebody else's?
Right.
Is it your parents' dream? Is it your wife's dream? Is it your son's dream? Whose dream are you living?" And they stop. And all of a sudden they had this aha moment like,
Yep.
wait a minute, that's why I feel so damn miserable. I've forgotten how to dream. Forgotten to just decide what I want to do, how to reinvent myself, how to live every day with passion and energy and excitement for new opportunities. So that's what I'm all about.
I love it.
I love being able to connect with someone one on one.
It's all about connection, like you said in the beginning. I love it. I love it. Well, I've had a great time with you so far, but now I get to ask you some of my questions that I love to ask, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
Because I've had a great time listening to you and share your story. And, what an honor it is for you to be here. But I'm going to start with fearless, like the same as my podcast, right? What does fearless mean to you today, John? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Fearless, it's about the first four letters in that word, fear. And what are we fearful of? Failure. And so, what is failure? In my eyes, failure is an opportunity to find a new answer. It's a way of finding a new outlook, a new mindset, a way of falling forward instead of falling backward. So, fearless is the courage it takes to step outside of your comfort zone and embrace life's challenges because a challenge becomes an opportunity to feel fulfilled and help others.
Love it. I love it. You heard that, everybody. Well, that leads me to my next question, John. Happiness. And as you can see, I put a Y in it, and I did that for a reason. So, knowing I put a Y in happiness, what does happiness mean to you? And how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
There's a three-letter word that begins the Y, and it's you.
You're the first one to say that. I love it.
And when you invest in someone else's success and they know that you are on their side and you are supportive, no matter what mistakes they've made in their life, no matter what their political affiliation, their religious affiliation, whatever, you just say, hey, I'm invested in your success. That brings you happiness tenfold. Because again, it's all about creating those memorable interactions and being just a little part of someone else's breakthroughs.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Well, I'm speechless because I love it. You've been great, John. But I'm going to get to if people want to get a hold of you, work with you, or if they need an empowerment and resilience coach, how do they get a hold of you, John?
It's my website is very simple. It's John Kippen, KIPPEN.com. And it's a funny story. So one of the side effects from my brain surgery was a slight speech impediment because I can't properly pronounce one syllable in the English language. And that syllable is two consecutive P's, like in the word pepper, or ironically enough, in my own last name, Kippen. So many times on the phone, I'll say my last name. They're like, "Oh, Kitten like a cat?" I'm like, "No, Kippen with P as in Paul." So no, it's JOHNKIPPEN.com.
I love it.
And that can take you to my speaking website, my coaching website, but that's the master landing website that has links to some amazing performances, my TED Talk, my documentary, and a way to reach out to me.
I love it, John. I love it. Like I said, this has been a wonderful, wonderful time. I've had so much fun and learned so much about you. So thank you for being here. I'm so grateful, but you're not quite off the hook just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask of all my guests at the end, and it goes like this. So, John, what is the one piece of advice you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
Learn how to love yourself. You're the only one you got, and you have two choices. You can get down on yourself and beat yourself up and hide from life, or you can celebrate your differences and embrace who you are and not care what other people think and just go and take the world by the horns and make it your world. Leave your lasting impression on this world we live in. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. You can go volunteer for a charity. You can, you see a homeless person and you can pull over and have a conversation with them and buy them a meal,
Yes.
you know? And, I do that all the time. And some people want to take advantage of you. They're asking for money.
Right.
And the first thing I do is, "Oh, yeah, we're in front of a restaurant. Can I buy you a meal?" And then you really know what their motives are. They say, "No, no, thank you. I'm good."
Right.
You can keep them short.
I've done that before many times.
You would buy me a meal?
Right.
Oh, I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
And then you buy them a meal and you give them $20 or whatever.
Right.
Oh, be generous in this world. We all have things to give. And it may not be money. It may be just our time. It may be just be our friendship. Generosity doesn't have to be dollars and cents.
Exactly. I love it. Wow, John. Well, the people are gonna have a hard time following this one because you thank you so much. One, like I said, thank you for doing me the honor of being here, and just thank you for bringing so much value and brightening my day. And I know the audience who's going to be listening, you're brightening their day for your message. So thank you so much.
I hope the listeners can hear the passion in my voice.
Oh, absolutely. Loud and clear. I know if I can, and I'm going deaf, actually, I know they can.
Hearing my passion for changing lives,
Yeah,
my life's mission.
absolutely.
And
That's
so
why
I find every opportunity to do that.
Yep.
I don't need to be a multimillionaire. I just need to cover my expenses. And that's why my individual one-on-one coaching, I work within your budget, because I want to help improve the world one person at a time.
That's why we get along so well, John, even in our short time together. That's why I think we have definitely made a connection because we think alike. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here and thank you for bringing it today, as they say, and leaving such a great message. Because you heard him, everybody. If John made you think, if John taught you something, if John made you smile, and my famous, if John made you go, I like that, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast.
Wait. Sorry. Wait.
Oh, wait. John has something else to say. Go ahead.
Get that free gift.
Oh, yeah, that's right. If you
Go
made
to
it
johnkippen.com/free gift.
That's
You'll
where
be
you
able to download a free copy of my best-selling book, Playing the Hand You Are Dealt.
I love it. I almost blew it, everybody, but thanks, John, for keeping me on top of it. But you heard it. Go to johnkippen.com/free gift, and you will get the free PDF of his book. I plan on buying it. So I will be getting it for me because I love to read books. Or I wouldn't say I love it, but when I know they're good books, I love to anything that's going to improve my life. So thank you for being here, John. As you heard, like everybody, again, I said, thank you for being here. Until next time, this is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. We'll see you then.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.